Hello Internet, Seth Skorkowski, and today we're going to talk about tracking ammo in tabletop role-playing games. Whether it be arrows, bullets, slingstones, laser blasts, or pies, player characters, at least in most RPGs, are going to eventually run out. Often we're trying to emulate certain movies and characters like Legolas and Hawkeye who almost never run out of arrows, not unless it's that, last arrow, better make it count, or some other dramatic moment. I think we've all chuckled about how, gun magazines and movies hold unlimited bullets, while a revolver might hold a meager 12 or 15 shots. And if we're trying to emulate those movies, shouldn't the game also reflect that fact that we're not really limited by ammo at all? Or some players just don't want to deal with the bookkeeping of tracking ammo at all, finding it a hassle that it takes away from the fun, so some tables just don't track ammunition at all, but that also means that they've lost that dramatic last bullet or last arrow tension, and some game masters who've house ruled that they're not going to track ammo end up regretting that decision because their players have lost that challenge and that little bit of fun that comes from that. It really depends on how much of a simulationist with resource management or a narrativist type of player that you and your table are, as well as what type of game it is that you're all playing. But instead of meticulously tracking every single shot or just hand-waving that we all have unlimited ammunition now, which are the two extremes, there are a few alternative methods that gamers can do to lessen the bookkeeping while still providing the drama of possibly running out of ammunition at the wrong time. Now, this video is going to be system neutral, so it doesn't matter if you're playing D&D, Cyberpunk, Traveler, Call of Cthulhu, or whatever else. The same general tips apply, though they might need to be tweaked a little bit for your specific game. And of course, we're also assuming that your RPG of choice has ammunition tracking at all. If it doesn't, well, you probably don't need to be watching this. Now, personally, I don't care for unlimited ammunition, where the characters can't lose that ability at ranged attacks without some powerful magic or something that has to come in and stop them. That's just my taste. Back when we started playing Dungeons and Dragons in the early 90s, character sheets had this little box for tracking ammunition, and it was really handy. You shot a crossbow or threw a dagger and you marked it off. I don't know why every character sheet in every other game doesn't do this. I found this thing to be so useful, and then it kind of surprised me that very few people ever do this. Now, a few years later, I started playing Cyberpunk 2020, and in that game, players had to weigh certain factors when choosing a firearm. Large caliber weapons inflicted more damage, but they held less ammunition, and weapons with lots of bullets or extended magazines were more difficult to conceal. So there's a bit of a balance involved, a give and take. And if we decided that we all simply had unlimited ammunition, it would have completely ruined that really cool aspect of the game. Now, in fantasy games with arrows, we can often recover arrows and fire them over and over again, and ones that might have been broken or lost could be fixed through crafting rolls or through magic. So we tracked all arrows fired, but then after the battle we'd roll a 1 in 6 were lost and needed to be repaired or replaced. Now, one method that some groups adopt, and I've certainly used this one before, is turning the base camp into a reload point, meaning that when your characters delve into the dungeon or perform the heist or whatever it is, we track each shot. But if they leave the dungeon and go back to their base or wherever their mounts or vehicles are outside, they can fully restock. Like we've got a portal to the elemental plane of bullets there or something. And characters might need to periodically head back out to their base camp to replenish their ammo supply. Now, one alternative is to only track missed shots. So if you shoot your bad guy with your arrow, then great, don't mark that one off. But if you fired and missed, that arrow or crossbow bolt is assumed to have flown off in the distance or hit the dungeon wall and smashed. So you can say that your character is 10 or 15 or 20 shots that's in their bow, but instead of thinking that's how many shots that they have to take, see that as how many misses that they could possibly have. So highly proficient characters who aren't that likely to miss are going to naturally have more shots before they run out of arrows, giving us that Legolas ability of getting 50 shots out of those 5 arrows. Now, of course, this is against normal opponents, right? If we're firing arrows against the fire or acid monster, each arrow that strikes it is going to be destroyed, making those opponents even more of a threat because now we're marking off every shot. A different but similar method is to only track fumbles or full auto bursts. Some gamers have said they treat ammunition as being unlimited until a fumble is rolled, and then it's treated like they're completely out of ammunition now. Personally, I don't like that idea of it being either totally full or totally empty. The reason being is, what if that was their first shot in the entire adventure? Our archer walks into a dungeon fully loaded, shoots at a goblin, misses the goblin, and all of a sudden they're completely out of arrows? That's just silly. It also loses that impending threat of watching their ammunition get lower and lower and lower, and now they have to debate, should I take this shot or maybe should I do something else? Now, firearms, they usually have magazines, and you can easily usually carry half a dozen or more spare magazines on you, so it's easy to use the method where rolling a fumble or a serious failure means that you emptied your gun and now you need to spend the next round you're reloading your next magazine before moving on, then you simply mark off one magazine. Now that's how the Alien RPG does it, where panic roll means that you lose your cool and empty your weapon, and then you need to reload that weapon, and players that only track how many reloads they have. However, with arrows or quivers, which are significantly larger, and walking around with half a dozen loaded quivers would just look ridiculous. So divide quivers into loads, like a quiver holds maybe 4 loads. Then as the PC rolls a fumble, that doesn't mean that they're totally out of arrows, but mark off 1 load. That removes the minutia of tracking every single shot, but also allows that tension when the player looks down as their ammo is going, from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, and now that they know that one more bad roll, they might be out of arrows. Modiphius's 2d20 system does something similar, and I've reviewed both Conan and Achtung Cthulhu that use that. But one aspect that those add is going all in on an attack, where a player can choose to spend a full load by laying down a burst of automatic fire or firing a full volley of arrows. So you can house rule into your own game how this weapon holds maybe 5 loads, and rolling a fumble spends 1 of those. Or the player might choose to spend 1 of those on a full burst of automatic fire or some other added benefit, like a bonus die to hit or a bonus to damage or something like that, meaning that there is a trade-off involved. But, some attack might be really important, and the player can decide if it's worth spending a full load on this attack.
Dude, if you say load one more time, I'm gonna frickin' lose it. What about when he was all, I'm gonna blow a load for this important fact?
I didn't say it like that.
Yeah, but what you say and what we hear ain't always related.
Another method, and I haven't used this one myself, but I really dig this idea, is ammunition dice. This is something that I found over on Giphy and I think it's pretty cool, and I think I might try to use this at some point. Essentially, every ranged weapon has a die value associated with how much ammunition you have for it, such as your gun or your quiver fully loaded has a d20. And then when you roll your 2 hit, you also roll your ammunition die. And I recommend rolling both of these at the same time, just simply with different colored die. If that ammunition die rolls a 1, that means that you've used up a significant portion of ammunition and you move that down to the next lower die. So a d20 goes down to a d12, d12 goes down to a d10, then a d8, D6, and finally a D4. Giphy also gives us this handy breakdown of how many the average shots that we can have if we start with a certain die. So if you start with a D20, you can expect around 30 shots before you're out. Or if you start with a D8, you can expect around 9 shots on average. This can be really useful for where a player character might find a pistol or some other weapon. Instead of telling them that this weapon holds 12 bullets, you could, that you have to mark off each individual one as they fire it. You simply say that this weapon has an ammunition die of a D10 when it's fully loaded. Now the only thing I would change with this is on a D4, instead of saying that the ammunition is all of a sudden all out when you roll a 1, say that there's now only 1 shot left. And that gives us that drama of the player knowing perfectly well that this next shot will definitely be their last. I stick a link down in the video description below to Giphy site so you can all check that out. Anyway, that is it. Pretty short and simple video here. Personally, at my table, if the game is designed where you're supposed to be counting ammunition, we count ammunition. Evidently, I'm a monster for that. But over all the years, I've received countless comments from people saying how they don't count ammunition at all for any game and giving everyone unlimited shots, or they have it where the player is just totally full until they roll a single fumble and they're just totally empty. And I want to offer a few alternatives to those extremes because I'm not really a fan of either of those. Hopefully some people out there might find these ideas useful and again tweak them and work them into their own games.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see some more of our stuff such as game reviews or how-tos, just hit that subscribe button. Till next time, amigos, stay awesome. Dude, I'm happy that you think those ammunition dice are cool and all, but I think I'm just going to stick to counting bullets. I get more shots that way. Why? The average number of shots is technically higher. I mean, if a 20-round magazine uses a D20, then on average you're going to get 30 shots before you run out. Yeah, average. I'm dice cursed, man, so I'm just going to roll all 1s on those things and be out of ammo by the 7th round, so no thank you. I'm sticking to the classics.